Hi, hello. Welcome to my welcome to my most important chapter for every student in chemistry for both competitive and board examinations. That is atomic structure. Okay. Today I would like to give you concepts, 50% of the important concepts in this atomic structure one lecture, useful for all the boards as well as JEE NEET revision concepts. Okay. Shall we start the class? Yeah, let us move to the class. Let us see what is Dalton's atomic theory. Actually, this Dalton theory is telling about matter and its importance. That means it is made up of atoms. They are small, individual, indestructible, fundamental particles. Atoms can neither be created nor destroyed. That means they persist unchanged for all eternity. Atoms of particular elements are like in size, mass, and properties. So that means atoms of particular elements are alike. That means the size is different, the mass is different, the properties are different. Atoms of different elements are different from one another. That means different sizes, different masses, and properties are there. So that's why they are different from one element to another element. Another important postulate discussed in this one is a chemical reaction involves either the union of separation of individual atoms. Okay. So what is the meaning of this one is nothing but you see a chemical reaction here, that is two hydrogen atoms combines with one oxygen atom to form this locking type of situation that is called as bonding. That is called as chemical reaction. That is called as chemical bond. Okay. So this is what about Dalton's atomic theory. Let us see. Is J.J. Thomson produced a visible beam in a cathode ray tube. This is cathode ray tube. That is invented in 1897 by Ferdinand Braun. This is the person who invented Braun. And in this C diagram, we'll see the beam comes from a cathode. This is cathode. Accelerated past the anode towards the fluorescent screen at the end of the tube. Simultaneous deflections are applied and the electric and magnetic fields permitted Thomson to calculate the mass to charge ratio of particles accompanying the cathode ray. So this is one of the major breakthrough in the history of fundamental particles. We can understand. Let us move to the Mulliken's oil drop experiment. In 1909, he has done an experiment, that is microscopic oil droplets is taken electrically charged by friction as they formed or by using X-rays. These droplets initially fell down gravity and their downward progress could be slowed or even reversed by an electric field lowering apparatus. And by adjusting the electric field strength and making careful measurements and appropriate calculations, Mulliken was able to determine the charge in the individual drops. So see, he has taken 5 samples A, B, C, D, E. Charge also he has calculated using this experiment. Here, this is the oil sprayed in fine droplets. This oil atomizer, this is telescope here, pinhole is present here, and X-ray to produce a charge on droplets. This is X-ray. Electrically charged brass plate is present here, And another charged plate is nothing but this is the charge spin hole, and where this charged oil droplets under the observation here. This is another positive plate. This is a negative plate. In between that, these particles over that the particles they have sprinkled, and these are the charged oil droplets under observation which is coming down here. And here, this is the experiment measured the charge of individual oil drops. It tabulated this data. Few possible values also are shown. So when we want to calculate the number of electrons in this particular case, then we can use Q is equals to N into E. The N will become equals to Q by E. And the charge, suppose if it is taken as 3.2 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, will be divided with the electron charge 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs. So it will become 2. That means 2 is the number of electrons in this droplet. So this is one idea which is discussed in Mulliken's oil drop experiment. Let us see the properties of subatomic particles. A electron charge, this is the minus value unit charge is their mass. Atomic mass unit, this is the 0.00055 is their mass in grams. 0.00091 10 to the power of minus 24 given proton said to be present in nucleus, neutron also in nucleus. That's why proton and neutron will call it as nucleons, and electron which is present outside the nucleus. The neutron is charge is 0, null charge 1, but the almost mass is approximately equals to proton, and a little heavier than proton, that is neutron. That's why it is present in the nucleus. And the mass of this proton is 1.00727, while that of neutron in atomic mass units is 1.00886. Here, what is electron? Is electron x1 minus 1 is 0 or E minus. The electron was discovered by J.J. Thomson during the study of cathode rays, that means stream of electrons. And the term electron was coined by J.L. Stoney. And what about proton? Proton is 1H1 or P. The proton was discovered by Goldstein during the study of anode rays and canal rays or positive rays, which originate in the origin region between cathode and anode in the discharge tube. The term proton was coined by Rutherford. For anode rays, E by M ratio depends on the nature of the gas taken in discharge tube, and it is maximum for hydrogen gas. Let us see about neutrons. So neutron was discovered by Chadwick, and it is of the equation beryllium nuclide is bombarded with alpha particle 2He4. It is 2He4. And the neutron was discovered later because it is chargeless. So it was heavier than electron and proton, and an isolated neutron is unstable and disintegrates as follows. There is 0 N1 disintegrates to minus 1 is 0 1 P1 plus some energy. So it is stable inside the nucleus but unstable outside the nucleus. This is the actual story behind that subatomic particles, important subatomic particles, not all the particles. Important subatomic particles in our study. What is atomic number? Actually, Mr. Moseley postulated that the frequency of X-rays was related to charge present in the nucleus of atom of an element used as anti-cathode, and found that the relation nu square root of frequency is equals to A into Z minus B, where he is told that nu is frequency and Z is the nuclear charge, and A and B are the constants, arbitrary constants. A is the probability constant and B is a constant having some same values of all lines of X-ray spectrum. And the number of unit positive charges carried by the nucleus of an atom, which is coined as atomic number with Z is the symbol. Z is equals to P, that is equals to number of electrons for neutral atoms. Z is equals to proton number for ions. And you can see this is the graphical representation. From this I got square root of frequency is equals to A into Z minus B, and he has taken that Z on the x-axis and square root of the frequency on the y-axis to get this one. And some facts about this one is always Z is said to be the whole number and the permanent value for each element. The serial number of elements in the periodic table also determines that their exact location. And periodic properties are related to atomic number of elements also. So atomic number is a vital concept, the most important information required for us for the examination point of view to understand the chemistry. What is the isotopes? What are isotopes? These are also atoms contains isotope formulated by sodium, and Z is the symbol and for atomic number, and A is the symbol for mass number. Using this one, we can write a general expression ZXA, in that X is symbol of the element and A is the mass number, Z is the atomic number. So if for particular element, this type of isotopes exhibit same chemical properties, have same number of protons. And the rate of lighter isotopes is greater than rate of heavier isotopes. That is called as the isotopic effect. Isotopes is separated by fractional distillation, thermal diffusion, gaseous diffusion methods, and they can be detected by Thomson parabola method or Aston's mass spectrograph method or Dempster method. So methods names also they can ask in the exam. So for example, if you want to tell about isotopes of hydrogen is 1H1, 1H2, 1H3. Carbon, they are carbon 12, carbon 14, oxygen, co-oxygen 16 and 18, chlorine 35 and 37. The heaviest isotopes are radioactive in nature. For example, carbon 14 and oxygen 18 are radioactive isotopes of carbon oxygen respectively. We see what are the isobars. This is the entire record about isotopes. Now we'll see the isobars. These are the atoms with different elements with same mass number A and but different atomic numbers. They are called as isobars. Here mass number is same. Here in the isotopes Z value is same. That means atomic number is same. They have different number of protons and neutrons, but sum of the protons and neutrons is same in the case of isobars. They have different chemical properties, but physical properties related to mass are same. Example, argon 40, potassium 40, calcium 40, their physical properties are same, but the chemical properties are different because they are elements of different elements. Elements of different materials. Argon is different, potassium is different, calcium is different. Let us see the isotones. What is isotone? Here, neutron number is similar. That is nothing but the number of neutrons can be calculated by using A minus Z formula. A minus Z formula. For example, you take carbon 14, 14 minus 6 is 8. 7 and 15, if you take that is 8. And 8 over 16, that is 8. That means isotones are the species having different atomic number and mass number, but same number of neutrons. This is the another most important topic of atoms with different classifications according to nuclear chemistry. Let us see what are isoelectronics, or you can say isoelectronic species. The isoelectronic species having same number of electrons, for example, neon, sodium, oxygen, oxide, methane, ammonium, is all said to have the same number of electrons, that is 10 is the number of electrons. That we will call it as isoelectronics. That may be cation or anion or neutral species, anything. If the set of the species are having same number of electrons, we can call them isoelectronic species. Let us see isoesters. Isoesters are species having same number of atoms as well as same number of electrons. So here number of atoms is 2. In Cn minus, in N2, 2, in CO, 2, in NO plus also 2. And telling that same number of electrons, here electron number. So there should be isoelectronic species with the number of atoms is same. But in the above case, we have methane, 5 atoms are there. Ammonium, 5 atoms are there. Oxide, 1 atom is there. Sodium ion, 1 atom is there. Neon, 1 atom is there. So they are not isoesters. But isoesters here, Cn minus is isoester with N2, CO, NO plus. So the condition is all isoesters are isoelectron species, but isoelectronic species may not be isoesters. So here, that's what we discussed. These are the above what we discussed. They are all isoelectronic species, but they may not be isoesters. Moving on to isomorphs. One more important thing that is called as isomorphs. These are also comes under atoms only. Isomorphs are the compound that has same crystalline structure. So here, structural elucidation base. This is not one atom. This is a compound, alum, green vitriol, having a same number of water molecules here. The structure is also, water molecule number may be different in the crystal, but the structure is similar. That's why we will call they are isomorphs. So this is again discussed in solid state chemistry. We have done it. Let us move to the isodiaphers. It is N minus Z or A minus Z is the formula. This is the isotropic number. Isodiaphers are the atoms having isotropic number, or they have same A minus 2Z number. Calculating the A minus 2Z value for 9F19 and 19K39, if you see, both we got one only the value calculation. So they comes under isodiaphers. The occurrence of natural abundance of isotopes can be actually experimentally determined using instrument which is called as mass spectrometer, MS. And this mass spectrometer is said to be widely used in chemistry and forensics and medicine and environmental science and many other fields to analyze the help identify the substances in sample of material. These contain cations also. Let us see its picture. Here the sample enters here. I'll show you. Here sample enters in this direction, and a heater vaporizes the sample here. This is the heater, and electron beam source here. Electron beam source will come here, and they pass to the ions which is accelerated in between the plate here. And after that, this magnet is also kept here. Electric field and magnetic field, they pass, and magnetic field reflects the lightest ions most in this experiment. And finally, they'll detect what is the graphical representation when the relative abundance with the mass to charge ratio. For zirconium, they made experiment and they got this is the graphical representation. That means the cation that pass through this electric and magnetic field deflects each cation path to an extent that depends on both this its mass and charge ratio, similar to the path of large steel ball bearing rolling past magnet and deflected to lesser extent that of small steel BB. So the ions which are detected and plot of relative number of ions generated versus the mass to ratio is made like this. And telling about the things that height of each vertical feature or initial use during the development of modern atomic theory, mass spectrometer has evolved to become powerful tool for chemical analysis in a wide range of applications. That's why the analysis of this here zirconium, which is made in a mass spectrometer, given this type of readings, produces a mass spectrum with the peaks showing the different isotopes of zirconium 90, zirconium 91, 92, 94, 96. These are the things which is identified isotopes and their percentage abundance is also calculated. So how to calculate? We'll check it out. Now, what is atomic mass? Atomic mass are given in atomic mass units, abbreviation AMU. Okay. So you can see hydrogen 1H1, 1H2, 1H3, how they are given atomic mass units differently. Isotope of carbon 12 and 13 and magnesium 24. Their atomic mass units they are given here 12, 13.003 and 23.99. So on seeing these numbers, the atomic mass unit, also known as Dalton DA, is defined in exactly 1/12 mass of the carbon 12 atom is equals to 1.66054 into 10 to the power of minus 24 grams. So it indicates one atomic mass unit is 1/12 of this mass, 1/12 of carbon mass. So that is equals to this value. So when you have calculated the mass of one carbon 12 atom, that is divided with 12, you will get this value. Okay, that we'll see how came. Calculate the mass of one atom of this one. That is mass of one atom in grams, how to calculate? This is the value we got, 12 AMU, that is for carbon. If you take multiplied with this one, that is one atom mass 1.66054 into the power minus 24 grams by AMU. Then it is 1.99265 into the power of minus 23 grams km. That is the mass of an atom which is in grams. What is the atomic mass takes into account fact that not all the carbon atoms in nature are carbon-12 atoms. As we have seen, carbon consists predominantly two isotopes in our carbon-12, that is of 98.89 natural abundance, and that of 13 carbon is 1.11% of natural abundance only. You can see this is the picture. From this picture, you can understand that relative abundance of carbon isotopes on Earth, which is given in this picture, and weighted average of atomic masses of naturally occurring carbon is 98.89. And any naturally occurring sample of carbon atoms will contain these two isotopes in these abundances, and the atomic mass of carbon reported in the periodic table is called as weighted average atomic masses. Each isotope of atomic mass is multiplied by its percent abundance, which is decimal form, meaning the percent is divided by 100, and then results are summed. You can see what is the weighted average atomic mass naturally occurring carbon is. Carbon 12 portion is 12 into this value given is 0.9889. So this is what its abundance 98.89% means, that is into 100. Now sorry, divided by 100. So it came 0.9889 into 12. Like that of 13, carbon 12 is multiplied, percentage multiplied with 100, you got this is the total is 12.01 only came, which is very close to 12, except the carbon, all remaining are little different is there, but carbon is exactly close to 12. That is the reference element for atomic masses. Let us move to the calculation of percentage abundance. For example, if you take naturally occurring chlorine consists of 35 chlorine, that mass AMU given 34.96854. So this value with divided by 100 into this 35. Okay, like that will come. But with an average mass of 35.45, they have already given average mass, atomic mass. Then they are asking the percentage composition of chlorine in terms of the two isotopes. So percentage abundance in this question we have taken for chlorine 35 is X, that of 37 is 100 minus X, or 1 minus X will come. So that is the substitute in the expression. Upon simplification, we got X value. The X is nothing but percentage composition of chlorine, that is 0.7576 km. That of chlorine 37 is 0.2424. That means chlorine consists of 75.76% of 35 chlorine and 24.24% of 37 chlorine. So in this way, you can calculate the percentage of abundance from the given isotopes. Okay, this is the model. Next, we'll see Thomson's model. It is also one of the most important model called as plum pudding model. Thomson's plum pudding model of the atom, which shows the positive part of the atom, negative part of the atoms. Here, J.J. Thomson introduced the significant modifications in the prevalent atomic model. These conclusions are the basis of modern view of atomic theory, according to which atom is divisible into subatoms particles, and atoms can also combine in non-whole number ratio in non-stoichiometric compounds. For example, if you take iron oxide Fe 0.93 oxygen is there, that is model. And atoms of same elements differ in properties related to mass, as in case of isotopes, while atoms of different elements have same properties in case of isotopes. So what is the main point in this given discussion is same element also different properties related to mass, as in case of isotopes, while atoms of different elements have same properties in case of isotopes. That's what we observed experimentally. So Thomson's model for this atom consisted of a cloud of positive electricity. This all red color part is there, the positive electricity, in which the negatively charged electrons were embedded. This is blue color, see, embedded. And this became known plum pudding model because it reminded many scientists to classic English pudding. So this you have to understand before going to the next level of the models. So this is the fundamental atomic theory. Next, developed by Rutherford's scattering experiments and has passed the X-rays. That means the alpha particles into the atom gold foil, and noticed a very small number of alpha particles are significantly deflected and few particles are slightly deflected. Most of the alpha particles pass straight to the foil, that means thin gold foil it is, and luminescent screen to detect scattered alpha particles may be zinc sulfide fluorescent screen. So this is the idea of the experiment. So from this experiment, most of the alpha particles passed through the foil, and some of them were deflected through small angles, and very few, that is 1 out of 20,000, were deflected in large angles around about 180 degrees. So in this, you can also again observe the zinc sulfide screen kept here. Faint flashes from the particles deflected at wide angles here, and the thin gold foil is yellow in color. Thin alpha particle beam is coming from this lead box, the particle source, that is radioactive element. And finally, in this screen, expected main spot caused here by most particles passing through the foil and continuing to travel in straight line. So this is the straight line movement. This is the experiment result. So what is the thing here noticed is, during the experiment involving alpha particle bombardment on 10 power minus 4 millimeter thickness of gold foil, Rutherford observed, these are the important points. The most part of the atom is empty, and as most of alpha particles pass through straight to the foil without any deflection. That is one. The electrons occupy position in this empty space, extranuclear region. Empty space is extranuclear region. The another one is a centrally located, solid, compact, small part having all positive charge and nearly the whole mass, that is known as nucleus. As only few alpha particles get reflected out of maximum of up to an angle 180, but at that point only they have noticed this nucleus. And they are given a formula for radius, that is R is equals to 1.3 into 10 to the power of minus 13 into a power 1 by 3 centimeters. The radius of atom will be in this range, you notice 10 power minus 10 meters to 10 power 8 centimeters. And radius of nucleus is 10 power minus 15 meters to 10 power minus 13 centimeters. Nucleus, this meters or centimeters. You can convert meters into centimeters. Atomic radius is greater than the nucleus radius by 10 power 5 times. That means atomic radius is bigger than the nuclear radius. So nucleus is very small. And these are the pictures again. We can remind how he has done the experiment. The nucleus of the gold atom identified using this experiment. Not only gold, any of the metal you can take, but gold is one of the best methods, metals under the study, noble metals. Failures, what he noticed failure is according to electromagnetic theory. That theory is telling that charged particles moving with acceleration, they emit energy to form electromagnetic radiation. According to this model, electrons are revolving around the nucleus and emit energy in the form of electromagnetic radiation. As a result, what will happen? When the electron loses energy continuously, they should collapse in nucleus following the spherical path, and Rutherford model failed to explain the stability of the atom. So electron is coming like this, and finally it may fall into the nucleus. Nucleus may get bombarded. Another point here notices failure, that is electrons lose energy continuously. An observed spectrum may be continuous, but it will consist of well-defined lines of definite frequency. Hence, that loss of energy by the electron is not continuous in the atom. So it should be a discontinuous spectrum. For that is given the calculation of distance from the alpha particle to the center of nucleus with the total energy at the initial point. This is the initial point. This is the final point. Energy calculation, kinetic energy of mv square, potential energy is 0 in the initial point, but kinetic energy became 0 in the final point, potential energy became k into q1 q2 by r, and in that the both are actually equal. After equated that one, you derived an equation that is r is equals to 2k q1 q2 by mv square, where the charge of the nucleus of an element is q2 and q1 is a charge and particle that is 2 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs into 1.6. Mass of alpha particle is this value. So these are all related to alpha particle only. So this is the alpha particle values for q1, q2 and masses. So this derivation giving an information about this alpha particle scattering experiment from Rutherford is successful, but it has got some limitations. Next, electromagnetic radiation. That means electric field and magnetic field waves theory. This is, and this wave is having crest and trough the properties. This is the amplitude. All radiant energy propagates in terms of waves. That energy is in the form of electromagnetic waves, and the radiation are associated with electric and magnetic fields perpendicular to another. This is there is a perpendicular direction that I shown. In this propagation, electromagnetic radiation, there is only propagation of wave, but not the medium. So this is a wave propagation only shown here. What is wavelength? It is the distance between any two successive crests or troughs, which is known as wavelength, denoted by lambda, measured in angstrom units or in the nanometers. One characteristic property of wave. Another characteristic, important characteristic property of wave is frequency. There is a number of waves per second missing at a given point that is known as frequency, and it is denoted by nu or f. The units of frequency are hertz or cycles per second. The another important property of wave is velocity of light. It is a distance traveled by one wave in 1 second, and velocity is equal to frequency into wavelength formula. Finally, you can write C is equals to nu into lambda, or lambda is equals to C by nu. And the light and all the other electromagnetic radiations travel in a vacuum in the air with the same velocity. Another important property is wave number. So it is the number of waves spread in 1 centimeter, and it is denoted by nu bar, increases the wavelength. So it is nu bar is equals to 1 by lambda. So it is the reciprocal of wavelength. So you can write a reciprocal of wavelength also. It is the increase of wavelength. And unit centimeter inverse of the units for it. You'll see the problem related to that one. The wavelength of a green light from a traffic signal is centered at 522 nanometers. What is the frequency of this radiation? What is the strategy? First we have to learn from this. The picture is given the wavelength of electromagnetic wave and asked to calculate the frequency. So if you rearrange the equation given, then the symbols will become nu is equals to C by lambda for the problem. And the C value is 3 into the power of 8 meter per second. Lambda value given in nanometers will be converted into meters. It will become 5.2 into the power of minus 7 meters. Upon substitution of these values, we will get 5.75 into 10 power 14 hertz is the answer for this frequency of radiation coming from the traffic signal. This is a model question on the properties of waves. Now let us see the spectrum. That means different kinds of light and their wavelength, frequency and radiations. X-rays, frequency and radiation. You can see sun lamps and heat lamps, microwave ovens and police radar, satellite stations, UHV TV, cellular telephones, FM radio, TV and AM radio. So in this, what is the increasing order? So frequency is decreasing in this order from left to right, and wavelength frequency is decreasing, wavelength is increasing in this order. For example, if you want to tell about gamma rays, then they have a least wavelength with highest frequency of 10 power 20. So in this picture, first picture, types of electromagnetic radiation given, gamma rays have shortest wavelength and highest frequency. And when it comes to radio waves, they have a longest wavelength and the lowest frequency, which is noticed here. So each type of radiation is spread over a specific range of wavelengths and frequencies in this one. In the second picture, if you observe the wavelength range, visible light range is there 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers from wavelength shown. This one you have to remember. So in between these wavelengths only, range only, the visible light will be there. All the 7 colors will be mixed in it. Now that figure shows that various types of electromagnetic radiation differs from one another in wavelength and frequency. The long radio waves are emitted by large antennas, such as they are used in broadcasting stations. The shorter the visible light waves are produced by motions of electrons within atoms and molecules. The shortest waves, and which also have the highest frequency associated with our gamma rays we observed, results from changes within the nucleus of an atom. So the figure shows that will shortly show the higher the frequency and more energetic radiation will be there. Thus, ultraviolet radiation, X-rays, gamma rays are in the high energy radiation. So from this only the Planck quantum theory is developed, and what he is told that when the solids are heated, then what will happen? Automatically some electromagnetic radiation will come out of it, a wide range of wavelengths, and dull red glow of an electric heater will become bright white light of tungsten light bulb. These are all the examples for this radiation from heated solids. From this general domestic live examples, you notice that measurements taken later part of 19th century show that amount of radiant energy emitted by an object at a certain temperature depends on its wavelength. So that is called as Planck's quantum theory. So from this theory explains short wavelength dependence but failed the account of longer wavelengths, but another theory accounted for longer wavelengths but failed for shorter wavelengths. It seems that something fundamental was missing from the laws of classical physics that is solved in this Planck's quantum theory. Finally, that problem is solved by this Planck quantum theory, is telling that atoms and molecules may emit or absorb energy only in discrete quantities, like small packets or bundles, and that Planck gave a name for them is quantum, with the smallest quantity of energy can be emitted or absorbed in the form of electromagnetic radiation. So which energy E is said to be given is directly proportional to the frequency and is formulated as E is equals to h nu for this mathematical expression. So in this, as called H is the Planck's constant, equals to 6.63 and 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second, and the value of this one is related with joule second, and even erg second also you can write it. Because of nu is equal to c by lambda, you can also modify this one, that is E is equals to hc by lambda. So from this theory, energy is always emitted in integral multiples, that is h nu, 2 h nu, 3 h nu, but never an example of 1.67 h nu, 4.98 h nu and all. So it should be integral multiples of this one. So that's why it is called as quantization theory. Now let us move on to the photoelectric effect development of the concept of electrons presence and atoms behavior. In 1905, only 5 years after Planck presented a quantum theory, Albert Einstein used this theory to solve another mystery in physics, that is photoelectric effect. Phenomena in which electrons are ejected from the surface of certain metals exposed to light of at least a certain minimum frequency called as threshold frequency. That's what we observed in this diagram. Incident light is falling on this metal surface and it is ejecting electrons, and is a voltmeter here mentioned here, And from this picture, you can understand that number of electrons ejected was proportional to the intensity of light, but the energies of ejected electrons were not, is not the count. That means energies of ejected electrons were not in the count. Means the frequency of intensity of light is important, not the number of electrons. So number of electrons is depending on intensity of light only. Below that threshold frequency, no electrons were ejected, no matter how intensity of light is there. So above the threshold energy and below the threshold energy, they have tested the ejection of electrons. The photoelectric effect now said to be not useful for this wave theory of light. It's not explaining by the wave theory of light, but however, they made extraordinary assumptions and suggested that a beam of light is really a stream of particles. That particles of light are now called as photons, and using Planck's quantum theory of radiation stating point, that is quanta change into photons. Einstein deduced that each photon must possess energy capital E, which is equal to E is equal to h nu. And he has given this expression in this experiment arrangement demonstrating the photoelectric effect. The beam of ultraviolet radiation, which is used to irradiate on the path of the surface of metal. There may be alkali metals and the electrons are ejected like this. Photoelectrons are ejected from the surface. If the frequency of radiation is above a threshold value, then that depends upon the metal. It is said to be coming out of the metal surface. And it is given this energy is of two parts. One part is kinetic energy, another part is called as threshold energy. So to electron come out of the nucleus, come out of the atom, there should be kinetic energy is required. To overcome the electroactive forces, another energy is required. That is called as work function. And that is also given as Ek is equal to h nu minus phi. You can see his graphical representation here, bound electron and energy of this electron. The photoelectron is present here and free and stationary state electron is present here. Just a small gap is there, and h nu and phi, that small gap only is making a lot of difference in this experiment. So incoming photon brings a definite quantity of energy h nu, and while it collides with an electron close to the surface of the metal target and transfer the energy to it. So that is the main secret behind the photoelectric effect. So this photoelectric effect is telling some important characteristics of this electron, that is number of electrons ejected regardless of intensity of light, unless the frequency exceeds the threshold value characteristics of metal. That means electrons won't get ejected until the frequency is crossing the barrier. Another one, kinetic energy of ejected electrons varies linearly with frequency of incident radiation, but is independent of the intensity. So intensity and kinetic energy, there is no relation. And even at low intensities also electrons are ejected immediately if the frequency is above the threshold value. That's why the threshold frequency phi is also called as work function, and Ek is kinetic energy, h nu is the total energy of the electron. And these observations strongly suggest an interpretation of photoelectric effect in which the electron is ejected in a collision with a particle-like projectile, and provided the projectile carries enough energy to that expel electron from the metal. We suppose the projectile in a photon of electron h nu, where nu is the frequency of radiation, then the conservation of energy requires that the kinetic energy Ek of the electron. So here, which is equals to half mv square, should be equals to the energy supplied the photon less the energy phi. That means uppercase is called nothing but phi, required to remove the electron from the metal. So more than phi, if it is there, then definitely it will remove the electron from the metal surface. See the problem, the work function of cesium metal given as 3.42 into 10 power minus 19 joules. Ask us to calculate the minimum frequency of light required to release the electron from the metal. That is the first question. The other question is calculate the kinetic energy of ejected electron if the light frequency is 10 power 15 second inverse is used for irradiating the metal. In this one strategy, kinetic energy which is taken 0 when we are telling about the threshold energy work function. So we can write H nu is equals to W. From that we got the frequency value is 5.16 10 to the power of 14 seconds, second inverse. After that, we have arranged the equation, that is K is equals to H nu minus W, and we have taken, for the second question, we have taken the frequency given, that is 10 to the power of 15 second inverse. And work function, we got is 3.42 10 to the power of minus 19 joules given in the question. Upon simplification, kinetic energy value in joules, we got 3.21 in 10 to the power of minus 19 joules. This is the model question for this photoelectric effect, may be useful for the examination. Next, in this photoelectric effect, a part of energy of photon is said to be used to overcome the attractive forces, and the remaining energy is used to increase the kinetic energy of the electron. So that kinetic energy is C minus 5, and I explained about this one. If nu is said to be greater than nu naught, means nu is the frequency of electron, nu naught is the threshold frequency, then kinetic energy is positive, therefore electron is emitted. If nu is equals to nu naught, therefore no electron is emitted. Less than nu naught, also there is no emission of electrons takes place. But kinetic energy will become negative in this case. So photoelectric effect is said to be happening when the frequency of light radiation is more. And kinetic energy of the electron does not depend upon the frequency of light. This is the important conclusions made by Einstein in the photoelectric effect. Let us move to the next one. That is, what is the meaning of spectrum? Now you will come to know that some energy is coming from the atom. That energy, electromagnetic radiation study is called as spectrum. Spectrum is nothing but arrangement of components of electromagnetic radiation in increasing order of wavelength or decreasing order of frequency. That's what we observed in the diagram. When it is passed through a prism, the apparatus used in the record is called a spectrometer, spectrograph. In that, observed the different colors of light. And a particular color is called as visible light. That means every color we can observe in the visible light region of 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. Emission spectrum. What do you mean by emission spectrum? Radiation emitted by the substance absorbing energy of a particular wavelength, or alternatively spectrum formed by the emission of energy in the form of light radiation, which is called as emission spectrum. In this, bright lines or bands on a dark background will be there. That is called as emission spectrum. In this spectrum, emission of light by the excited atoms or molecules will be studied. Or what about the continuous spectrum discussed? When no sharp boundaries are observed between the adjacent radiations, the spectrum is continuous. That is little difficult to understand, but you can see Vibgyor diagram. The spectrum of incandescent white light obtained by the heating a solid to very high temperature is a continuous spectrum. And when a white light passes through prism, then it splits. It gives continuous spectrum of 7 colors, that is Vibgyor. And in a continuous spectrum, each color fades into the next color as the rainbow. Next, absorption spectrum. The spectrum formed by the absorption of energy from form of light radiation is called as absorption spectrum. Can we understand photographic negative of an emission spectrum is there? That is missing wavelengths, leaving the spaces in continuous spectrum. So in this sense, absorption spectrum is just opposite to that of emission spectrum. So absorption spectrum is formed due to the excitation of atoms molecules by absorbing energy. That absorption spectrum is said to be having dark lines or bands on the bright background. What about discontinuous or line spectrum? The emission spectrum of atoms is a gaseous phase containing bright lines with the sharp boundaries is called as line spectrum, also called as atomic spectrum. It is a discontinuous spectrum having emitted radiations of particular wavelength, and dark lines in lines in the absorption spectrum and bright lines in the emission spectrum of particular substance appear in the same places. That's why each element has own characteristic line spectrum like fingerprints by which it can be identified. And this line spectrum of two elements can never be identical. They do not have same number of electrons. They have different masses, number, different energy level scale. They have different number of valency electrons. And they have noticed that line spectrum is used in chemical analysis and identification of unknown elements like rubidium, cesium, indium, gallium, helium, which are identified earlier in the science. And that line spectrum is given by atoms. So they are also known as atomic spectra, where the band spectra are given by molecules. That's why that is called as molecular spectra. This is all brief information about the spectra. Now we can see the pictorial representation, an idea. It is a diagram which is an example of early spectroscope like that invented by Bunsen and Kirchhoff. The two discovered several elements like cesium, rubidium among them by detecting their characteristic source of Bunsen burner. An example he has taken. So this is the one apparatus we can say identifying the spectra. And here between 400 to 700 nanometers, how hydrogen, mercury, neon are giving that spectra. While that of this 400 to 700 nanometers, this is the exact line spectra of several elements. Literally simple spectra of hydrogen here shown in the A picture, and absorption spectrum also shown. Both type of spectra, lines of light typically much sharper than indicated here. So here, these are the colors you can observe. Dark background is there, or that we have bright lines, different colors also came in this. So each element had its characteristic spectrum, whether absorption or if light is passed through a gaseous sample of element or emission, that is if sample energetically stimulated so that it is emitted light. So many of the spectra were complicated, but for some reason, the spectrum of hydrogen was relatively simple because it's having one electron, and hydrogen was the highest, lightest known element, probably the simplest fact that could hardly have been missed in the attempts to interpret its spectrum. In 1885, Swiss mathematician Johann Jacob Balmer showed that the positions of lines of light from hydrogen and the visible portion of spectrum could be predicted by this arithmetic expression 1 by lambda is equals to r into 1 by 4 minus 1 by n square, where lambda is told that wavelength of the light and n is told that an integer greater than 2, and r is some proportionality constant whose value is determined by measuring the wavelengths. This is what now we are calling as Balmer's expression. And the simplicity of this equation is startling. The inspired other scientists and analyze the spectrum of hydrogen in other regions of spectrum like infrared, ultraviolet regions, although several other people like Lyman, Beckett, Baschen, Fand were to discover other simple progressions like lines in the hydrogen spectrum. 1890, Johannes Robert Rydberg successfully generalized the progressions into a single formula, that is 1 by lambda is equals to nu bar is equals to RH into 1 by n2 square minus 1 by n1 square. As told, n1 and n2 are the different integers. n2 is less than n1 and RH is known as the Rydberg constant, and this value u bar is the wave number of the light, and as units of inverse centimeters, you know, indicating the number of light waves per centimeter. Interestingly enough, thanks to precision with which the hydrogen atom spectrum can be measured, Rydberg constant is one of the most accurately known physical constant, that is 109,737.315685 centimeter inverse. It's the most interesting thing and most important formula for examination point of view in the atomic spectrum. Okay, dear students, hope you understand this first part of the atomic spectrum I've given you, and all this information what I given is most important for the examination point of view. Those are beginners of atomic structure. Those are already prepared for them. These notes and this class will be most useful. Please share this video to all your friends. Ask them to come into our channel. Thank you very much.